there was a guy who played bass, so I just went to his house, knocked on the door. Older guy played with a band, and just turned up. You know, it's me, 12-year-old boy, knocking on the door, saying, "Hey, can I borrow your bass?" And you know, if someone just knocked on my door trying to borrow my, you know, my favourite instrument, this sacred bass that I play, I probably wouldn't be. I probably wouldn't give it away, you know. But you know, amazingly he did. He lent me the bass. I took it home. I started teaching myself. Downloaded some tablature, like Rage Against the Machine songs, all the rock songs I would learn. After about a month, he wanted it back, so I gave it back. But by then, I was already hooked. So there was another guy. I mean, it's not like a real musical town, but by chance there was a guy living right across the street who had a bass. So I just went around, borrowed it from him, and he also lent me a bass amp, a big 4x10, huge. You know, I'm 12 years old, trying to carry around this huge amp. So we start a band. You know, we obviously think we're pretty good, but we don't even know what any of the notes are on the guitar. We don't know any scales. We don't know anything. And then we start another band. It's me and my brother and my mate Luke and his brother, and it's kind of rap metal called Urban Addiction. That was the name of our first band. And we did a couple gigs, band nights, pub gigs, and our ears were so underdeveloped. Luke would play a guitar riff, and then he'd teach me the same riff, and he'd tell me to play it one semitone out. So if you play two riffs together a semitone out, it sounds incredibly discordant. It's basically the most dissonant sound in Western harmony. So we thought that sounded good. So we're like, you know, rehearsing at the Scout Hut, and his dad, who's a drummer, comes down and he's like, "Oh, you know, in that song, things don't sound quite right." And you know, like Luke's like, "You know, shut up, Dad. That's how we always play. You don't know anything," kind of thing. But I mean, it's really us that don't know anything at that stage, yeah. So my dad bought me this bass, this Fender Precision Light, when I was 13, just before that first gig. I think it was about 350 quid. And the deal was he'd be buying me the bass. Obviously I didn't have 350 quid as a 13-year-old boy. And I would give him 10% of my earnings from music, which, luckily to this day he hasn't cashed in on, because it would have been quite a good investment move from his side. So we had that band. Let's change the groove up. Let's go to a 1-4-5-4 groove in F, kind of Suka style. 1, 2. So I was at home. I was playing some songs with my friend. Nirvana, Radiohead, rock stuff, and suddenly there's a knock on the door. My mum knocks on the door and says, "Ed, you got to go next door right now and take your bass amp, yeah? There's a band have just arrived from Harare, Zimbabwe, just arrived in the country, and they've got a tour, and they need a bass player." So, yeah, there's me at the age of 14. I still don't really know any scales. I still don't properly know how to play. And I get in there, and there's all these musicians from Zimbabwe sitting around. The guitarist is trying to teach me some licks. I'm writing them down I've got a bit of paper, I've made little lines on it, and so I can try and remember, because I don't really have any experience of learning repertoire. But somehow, I must have been able to catch the groove, and I think it was because I was so young, so unexperienced in music, that it meant that I didn't have like a strong jazz background or any kind of background that would limit me from soaking up information, especially from a different culture so far away as Zimbabwe. So they taught me these songs. The band was called Shimani Mani, and 11 days later we did a 2-hour show. Yeah. Within a month, we're up in London playing at African nightclubs, universities. We did Glastonbury Festival, all these kind of gigs. what was amazing is because I was so young and I was playing with, professional musicians, adults, I had to very much quickly get up to speed, and obviously I'm not going to be as good as them, but I've got to be at a level where I can be accepted. It's either that, kind of get up to speed or go home. So I was touring with them, playing all kinds of gigs around the UK. And I'll show you one of the bass lines actually. Here you go to 7. So this was one of the bass lines I was playing when I was 14. Yeah, the guitarist George, he was a great bass player as well, so he showed me all this kind of stuff. Yeah, we'd be travelling all over the country. Some of the time we get trains going all over the country carrying out amplifiers. It was wild. When I was about 16, I got a call from Chanda, and he said, so Chanda was the drummer and the singer, George on guitar, George Karamaruva, and he said, some bad news, George has stolen someone's credit card, he'd stolen his girlfriend's credit card, stolen 600 quid, and fled to London, where an African guy with dreadlocks would be harder to locate by the police than in Devon, where it's pretty rural and everyone knows everyone. And he was in London, he was playing with a band called Bateman Marimba for a bit, and then fled back to Zimbabwe, joined Robert Mugabe's military town bands, and I didn't hear a single word from this guy who taught me how to play. I didn't hear a message or anything like that for about 15 years actually. Before I saw him again. So we kept the band going with Chanda. It was a bit quiet. I got into playing covers and stuff like that, looking for working bands. So I was doing like a lot of soul, 70s, 60s, 70s soul, Blues Brothers style stuff. I was playing this band called Wishful Thinking. We did pubs. It was like 7-piece band, so we get about £210 a show, 7 musicians, so 30 quid each, and my money would just go straight into the pub. So I'd be drinking double Jack Daniels and pints of Kronenberg, and then just smoking spliffs in the pub, rolling up hash joints. It was back in a time when you could smoke cigarettes in the pub, and I'm 16 years old, thinking that's kind of like acceptable behaviour, not even like considering how obvious how obvious it is to smell when someone's, you can smell the weed when someone's smoking. I didn't care, didn't give a damn. I hadn't really developed that awareness yet as a kid. So it was great experience playing all these gigs, but it wasn't really a kind of financial gain. But that was cool. I was playing with various bands like that over the time. When I was 18, I was like, okay, I wanted to move to London, and move to London and become a rock star. That's the great dream. I remember I always thought, when I was like 16, I was thinking, by the time I'm 18, I'm not going to need to learn to drive because I'm going to be so rich as a famous musician. I'll have a chauffeur, I'll have everything like that. So when I got to the age of 18, I was thinking, maybe by the age of 21, then, and when I got to the age of 21, I was thinking, maybe by the time I'm, 30, who knows? But now I'm 36, and it's me who drives the band usually when we're on tour. But yeah,